This is Chris Higgins reading from the Jail Carpenter's Diary. This is the chapter about Robert Neal. Neal has been convicted of killing a jail guard at Central Prison, where today's Liberty Village is. And here is the sort of pivotal moment in that chapter. Tuesday, February 28th, 1888. At one particular hanging, I can't remember which one, the mother of the condemned man was seized with a laughing fit. She almost infected me with it. It lasted from the moment her son arrived on the scaffold and was briefly stifled until just after the awful deed, whence she started up again, even as the unfortunate man, the issue of her own loins, swung and was convulsing. Who knows why these things happen? This morning, as Neal was being prepared, I felt some degree of panic that I was going to do as this woman had done and be seized with the giggles in front of the governor and the sheriff and everyone present. It was all I could do not to burst out loud as the minister was reading so solemnly with this man. At one point, I had to leave the room. There was a new sheriff with us. Sheriff Jarvis died last year. At 9 o'clock, he led the procession, which included the chaplain of the jail, Reverend Mr. Cassell, and the eminent men who had been so steadfast in their devotion to this known criminal. Until this moment, I had revered them as people who took their faith to the greatest degree, showing love for this quite terrible young thug. But some other information had come out at the end. Neal had sisters back in Ireland. They'd written the most touching letters to him about how sweet he was and how much they loved him. I myself saw the hardened man break down and cry. Just like a little boy, there is always something more to learn about a person than what they willingly show you. People are more interesting and deep and tender, even the most wretched, than they will reveal to you. I really believe that. It is the one thing this job has taught me. To say it in the most naive way, there is no such thing as a bad person. They may have violence and corruption coming from their pores, but deep down, even the worst of us is an innocent child. Maybe James Brown wasn't lying. On the scaffold, which felt different, like some vision of the future that felt completely unholy and vile, we stood there going through the same motions we had so many times before. The prayers, the hymns, the opportunity for the condemned man to speak, which Neal did briefly before having the cap put on his head and the rope fitted around his neck. Now came the true test. I remember back in school, for 1 year while the school teacher was home with quite a serious illness, we had a replacement teacher. He was a young fella from Cork. All the students loved him. He was athletic and handsome. He could also sing and play piano, and he tried teaching us things we'd never learned before. One project, I remember, was something he'd come up with on the spot. After reading us a story set in medieval times, he announced we were all going to build trebuchets. A month later, there we were, standing in the school field, all of us in a row with our inventions. It was springtime, a perfect day for it. Some of the mothers and grandparents had wandered over and were sitting on the hill. One by one, the teacher instructed us to launch them. When it came to my turn, I sent the little ball he'd given us further than anyone else. It was my proudest moment in all my school days. I wonder what ever happened to that young teacher. So there I was again, standing in the open air with the crowd, watching as another one of my designs was to be tested. I must say, I always feel nervous before a hanging. Before Governor Green took over, Mr. Allen had made me feel that if the intended victim didn't have his neck properly snapped, he was going to reach over and give mine a good wringing. Besides that, any person, no matter how hard, had to feel even the slightest twinge of empathy for the poor fellow who was about to drop to who knows where, or, as the case may be, get yanked off his feet. When the moment came, the device made an interestingly smooth sound as it engaged, like a well-oiled machine or a skilled golfer turning just so and sending the ball to some sweet spot down the fairway. I could tell it was well made. It didn't rattle or fall to the ground, thank God for that. And although it had a good deal of spring and action, unfortunately, it failed to break poor Neil's neck. That hapless man, Neil, shot up about as quick as the ball in my trebuchet, but soon stopped and dangled there awkwardly, kicking his legs like a frog you've caught and are holding by the belly. As he flailed, he tried desperately to move his arms, but they were pinioned. Under the cover of the mask, we could all hear him making awful noises for several minutes as he suffocated to death. Finally, with the momentum of all his struggles, his body swung and creaked there until it was cut down.